We are back. We are back. We will give people a second to join, but I am going to try and get our author on ASAP Rocky. Hello, hello. Hey, Alicia, will you drop in the chat what Healing Through Words is? What genre is that? Hello, Montrez. Okay. Can you
Oh,
hear me?
I can hear you, but
I
I
can
can't see you.
I can't see you either. Can somebody tell us in the chat if you can see both of us? Because if you
Neither.
can, I would love for us to at least be able to have this conversation since everyone is here.
I never know how far to like put myself on this thing. I'm always like too close, too far away.
Can we get some direction here, people? Oh, you can see
They
both
can
of
they
us.
can see us
Yay!
both.
Okay.
That is so crazy. I want to
I
see
know.
you. Wow.
I
Wow.
know. Well, we'll have to do like a Zoom on our own. Maybe we'll do like
Yes.
a Zoom exclusive
Yes.
kind
Oh
of chit chat.
man.
But I at least want to chit chat with you some today.
Yes.
Um, let's start from the beginning. First of all, welcome all to the Inkwell Exchange. Thank you so much for joining. I see you all coming through. We're having some IG tech issues. If you're late to the game, it's been we're going to make it work. We are going to persevere because we're excited to see you all. So if you're new here to
Yes.
the Inkwell Exchange, let me just give you the rundown. In a nutshell, we're a little platform that I've been building where authors, creatives, last week we had an audiobook narrator who I also
Wow.
see is on here. Come talk to us what it's like to work with authors, what it's like to be a creative. And it's kind of a creative to creative space, which I don't think there are always many of. And today's guest is Katrina, and she's been very patient with us. And so I'm going to throw it immediately to her to introduce herself, and then we're going to get this show on the road.
You have been equally patient. I don't know what's going on with IG. Montrez, I see you in the chat, girl. Thank you. I didn't look like this 15 minutes ago. Elisa popped on this chat, and I was like, let me do something with my face. But I am Katrina N. Lewis. I am a fantasy romance author, an adult fantasy romance author. So my stories tend to be a little spicy. And yeah, I've been writing for 3 years at this point, 3.5. I have three published works, one duology that is about dragon shifters, and then another novella that is about vampires and forced marriages. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for having me, Lisa.
Of course, of course. And I can't tell you how excited I am because when I first started the Inkwell Exchange, I think one of my biggest um, I don't know, goals was actually to start reading and
Mhm.
interviewing authors that I actually read, right? I think when I first started, I wasn't sure how to get those authors on my show. And I'll just hop in the DMs of people who seem like-minded and we'll see how it
Mhm.
works. And I love a good spicy romance and I love shifter romances. One of my favorite actually happens to be dragons, probably second only to wolves, right? And that's probably
Nice.
just I think it's probably just because I introduced to wolves first. So
Uh-huh.
I'm very excited to talk to you about one, like how did you get here? How did you decide that shifter, dragons, that's gonna be my first duology. And then after that, no, I want to do vampires. Like I feel like that's a vibe. How'd you get there?
So the shifter dragon duology came to me. I just had like this idea in my head about this cursed royal family. So it started from excuse me, a short story I had wrote called Crimson City. And it was about like heartbreak. I need some water. It was kind of about heartbreak and deception and betrayal. And it had like all of these like really awesome themes to it. And I was also really inspired by like Game of Thrones, and I wanted to see something as cool but super black. And then the short story happened, and I was like, wow, this is a really good short story. I want to continue it. So yeah, I just created more characters. I world built, um, everything around it to make sure it all made sense. And that is how Heavy is the Head duology was born. I was just like enthralled with dragons and royalty and shifters and this idea of like love and duty, and sometimes needing to do one over the other and it might not feel as good. And then I jumped over to vampires. Strangely enough, I don't even know how. I don't know. I wanted to write something fun. I wanted to write something maybe not as intense, even though Love Bites is equally as intense because it deals with um, just like some more like triggering issues. But I don't know. I just was like, yeah, let's write about vampires, and was born. The Love Bites novella was born. I wanted to actually try out Kindle Vella when I had started it, so it was like my excuse to like, hey, this is fun. Kindle Vella is a new platform. Let's give Love Bites a try. People love vampires. Me, maybe not so much, which is also interesting. But I gave it a shot and it was really fun.
Okay, we can't just let that sit there. Okay, what? I will say vampires are probably my gateway drug if I had to like pick a genre.
Mhm.
Especially into spicy stuff. Like I think if I'm talking to high school me, it was Twilight. I feel like most of us followed
Oh
this kind of trend though. Like
my
it was
God.
Twilight, and then
Yes.
it was whatever else was closest in that section of the library. And eventually
Mhm.
they ran out of YA, so it was like we're doing this.
Not
Um,
they ran out of YA.
though. It's so true. And so I think somehow I stumbled upon like light to medium spice, and then it was
Mhm.
just like not downhill, maybe uphill from there to like now I am very much in a dark romance area. But I think the other thing that you mentioned that I always ask our Black authors
Mhm.
is do you always write Black main characters? I've gotten different answers, so I'm curious for you.
I absolutely do, particularly women. So I'm very much dedicated to like my brand is basically I write about Black women who fall in love in fantasy settings, whether it be a contemporary fantasy setting, whether it be a made up world of dragons and all kind of different lore. um I really want Black women to be at the forefront of that and falling in love in a myriad of ways, whether their partner be another woman, whether their partner be a dragon shifter prince, whether their partner be a white male vampire. Yeah. So Black women, absolutely, 100%, always at the forefront of my
I
stories.
think that's really important because I
Yeah.
don't think there are, or I feel like even as a young Black woman trying to pick stories and find authors that have fantasy and but like I think I
Yeah.
talked about this probably in an earlier episode. Me and Amazon be beefing sometimes because it's like okay, I'm just gonna have to like peruse the covers and hope that the Black female is
Yeah.
on the cover, or like find out halfway through the book that she's Black, and it's like, wait, how? How did we miss
No,
that?
but that's so real. I mean, just thinking about when I first published Heavy is the Head, my mindset actually was I might have been like a little skewed by like what you see in popular culture and the idea of like wanting to reach everyone. But if I'm speaking to everybody, I'm talking to nobody.
Right.
um I made my covers very like ambiguous, so you kind of can't tell like what's it about, who's it about. um I love my covers. I think they're amazing. But I probably could have put Black people on them, and it probably people I might have would have reached my target audience a lot faster. But no, because that's absolutely real. People who look like us are looking for this type of content. Sometimes it's hard to tell just by like turning the book over. Because how many times have you opened up a book, you're like, oh, the characters are Black, and then they're like, oh, they're not quite.
You know, slightly tan or
Yeah,
a lot
the
of like Native
tan.
American main
Right.
male characters that you like
Yes.
thought were probably black but aren't.
Yes.
Um, no, I completely get that. I guess probably my own personal curiosity. How is it being a spicy fantasy romance? I feel like on like the Bookstagram,
Mhm.
the book talk, the whatever, like spicy is having its day in court right now, but that was not always the case. Like
No.
it used to be, we
Yeah.
had the discrete covers for a reason.
Yes. Yes. No, that is true. I think recently social media has really given like a voice to people who write spicier, steamier stories. But I find it interesting because I find myself kind of in the middle of that. I'm not I think my stories are more geared toward like the romantic spiciness of the relationship and not so much like spice just for it to be spice. I'm not
Yeah,
how it's just a more romantic feel. So like yeah, it's an open door scene, but like they're making love. They might do the dirty, but he'll whisper "I love you," or
right,
it's just a little bit more romantic. It might be like a 2 to 3 chili pepper on like the 5 chili pepper scale.
right, right.
So
I love how we
I've
all
met
think on
readers
Team
who
Chili
have
Peppers now.
wanted. Go ahead. I'm sorry. What you
I
say?
said I love how we're all talking in Chili
Yeah,
Peppers now.
right, yeah, we're talking chili peppers now. Like, there's a whole language for like this spicy, you know, book culture. But it's interesting because I've met or encountered readers who may have wanted my stuff to be more spicy. And then I've also met people on the other side of the spectrum that like opened my book and went, wait a minute, this is a romance? And I'm like, well, yeah. So my page. It's all
Yeah,
interesting.
there is quite a range in the genre, and I will say,
Mhm.
particularly as like when it comes to black female main characters, I am very skeptical.
Mhm.
Like um, if I don't know the author, I can be very kind of hesitant to try new authors
Mhm.
with black main characters that are spicy
Yeah.
because it can throw you off, right? Like in the middle
Yeah.
of a scene or whatever, especially if they're not uh, used to writing black main
Mhm.
characters or whatever. It can be can tend to be off-putting, which I think is why it's so important to
Yeah.
have black female authors who
Mhm.
are writing that kind of content.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I get
So
that totally. It can be.
yeah. And so in the light of that, I wanted to talk about like how are you building community as an author in this space? I feel like I have found I write children's books, so very, very different genre, but
Mhm.
still like the black indie author, especially female indie author arena feels to be like a very comforting community. How have you experienced it in your journey?
Yeah, no, definitely the indie author part. It's been so welcoming when I joined the community in I believe like December of 19, like right before COVID happened. I was nervous. I was new. I know some of my girls are on here, Montrez. I saw you, and I remember I would tell her all the time, like I was so nervous to talk to you, and then she went, "Me too." Yeah, no, the community has just been so welcoming. We reach out to one another. We help one another. It's just been the best experience in that aspect. I think the harder part of sometimes being an indie author is that marketing piece is that trying to build community. Because people are hesitant when they come to indie authors, when it's a black author, when it's a black female author and she's telling romance. What kind of romance is it? Are they, there's all these stipulations and stereotypes that I feel myself rubbing up against sometimes. But I think overall I've had a pretty good journey. I think I might have shot myself in the foot by trying to make my stuff a little ambiguous in the beginning. But no, my voice is here. I make sure my voice is heard. I'm usually posting. I'm usually visible online. I love connecting with people. But that marketing piece, I'm still trying to get it right.
No,
But
can
usually,
be.
people reach out to me, I reach back out. I love connecting with people.
Yeah, think I agree. I think the marketing piece can be hard and it's the least talked about part.
Hmm.
I think a lot of people think, oh, I've got the book done. And I'm like,
Hmm.
yay. So the work starts.
Right,
Because making the book, you come
right.
to find out, it's like the night, like the funnest part of it. After that, you got to peddle your product. And I will say,
Yep.
particularly in the romance community, I think readers that you're not saying this, I am.
Hmm.
Romance readers, as one myself, can be snobs. Like, we can be very snobbish about, like, what authors we find, the authors we like, or the authors that
Hmm.
Book Talk recommends, or the few authors that have like 100K more followers on
Yeah.
IG, and we stick to reading their 15,000 books, which is lovely, but it's
Right.
very rare for us to like branch out or just see something in, at a book fair or a
Hmm.
convention and be like, oh, yeah, I feel like this can be good and I'm going to review it or talk about it or
Right.
whatever. We can be kind of snobbish in that percent. Um, and it can be, I think that makes the marketing twice as hard
Yeah.
for that genre because it already comes with, I feel like, the stigma, and
Right.
then you've got to overcome the stigma, and then on top of that, the people who don't care about the stigma at all are just kind of
Yep.
like, but I've got my five.
Right.
So I'm good.
It's not my problem. I'm not, I don't have to, like you said, I got my five.
Yep.
Um, yeah, no, that is real. I think we all do it. Um, in some sense of the word, people are known to just like follow the trends or follow the leader kind of thing. So it is kind of hard sometimes to like break into that, like the circle of trust.
Right.
And
Right.
become someone's auto buy author. Yeah, that is difficult. Um, but there's hope.
I agree. There is hope. And I think even more so, probably what some of our people want to touch on, and I want to dive into it a little bit too, is what if, let's create a scenario. Let's say you're listening to this and you're a new and up and coming author, and you're
Hmm.
like, hey, I have this great story idea.
Hmm.
And I kind of know what I want to do about it. I've got maybe the mechanics of writing down, but I'm
Hmm.
struggling to get into a routine, right? What
Hmm.
would be your advice to that author that maybe can carry them through kind of the writing, editing,
Hmm.
publishing, and marketing phase? Like, what would you say you learned and had to become most consistent in?
I think that's a really good question. So I am very much like I could be a very shoot from the hip kind of person. I started out pantsing and not doing a whole lot of outlining. I didn't really have a routine, but it worked for me. And I think that's what I learned the most throughout this journey. You do what works for you, but then you also have to you have to have the mental toughness to be able to get through those periods where you may be feeling imposter syndrome. You may not have gotten but 100 words on the page. You deleted an entire chapter. I'm sorry, you might hear some things falling over because my cat is over here trying to join the live. Um, she's a mess. Yeah, you just have to have the mental toughness on top of that. So I think whatever routine that you have that works for you, whether you like to write in the morning, some people like to write at night, some people like to write in between their lunch hour. Um, However you find that inspiration, you want to make sure you grab it, you hold on to it, you recognize it, you know what it is, and then you continue to do those things when you feel that inspiration, or when like, hey, I have this next hour, let me do a writing sprint. I think if anything, that's the kind of routine you need to get in, that the training yourself to be mentally strong to push through the different stages of writing, because it's a long journey. Books could take up to a year or more to write, particularly if if it's novel length. And you just have to have the community around you to help cheer you on, to tell you maybe the things you might be doing wrong, or different tools that can help you. Don't be afraid to reach out and reach out to ask for help. But for me, that mental toughness is definitely a big one, because anybody can have a dream, but you gotta make it happen. So find a routine that works for you, whatever that may be, because everyone has a different routine. I haven't met one person who has had a clear, concise answer to that particular question. They're like, I just do what works for me. I like to edit or write, at the ass crack of dawn. I'm like, girl, I like to sleep at the ass crack of dawn. I like to write at night.
Right. Right.
It's whatever works for you, and then you just continue to power through it, and you surround yourself with like-minded people who can help get you to that finish line. Because I have definitely, I've had so much help getting from my short story all the way to my novella. And they know who they are, and I love you guys, and thank you all so much. But yeah, no, it's yeah, it takes a community, but you have to be the one to like, okay, I'm going to actually do this. This is not just something I thought of.
I think I'll double tap one, or really two particular parts. One about like finding a routine. I think it's recognizing what doesn't work
Yeah.
for you. I feel like a lot of people are like, yeah, do what works for you, which is always, it's just true. But sometimes the hardest part is recognizing that, hey, like I've put this routine in place and it doesn't actually work. Like I said, I was going to write an hour in the morning, but like getting the kids off to school or getting a hubby out the door, and, it makes it difficult to actually, get that hour in. Maybe I said I was gonna do it, at 3 a.m. because that's my like peak time. But like I'm too tired. I'm not fresh, so I can't be creative. Right? I think sometimes if you find a routine and your routine is routinely not working, maybe switch, pivot, feel power to pivot. And then probably the second thing I would double tap is finding a community that can support you is going to be essential. And it doesn't have to be somebody who's always there as far as like physically, but it can be somebody or a group of somebody's. Like I will say, I have found that the people who regularly engage with my content here in IG are some of the most encouraging folks, because it can be very disappointing to post something or post stuff all the time and you get
And
like
not
one
have
like,
people. Yep.
and it's like, why am
I've been there.
it's hard. It's hard.
I'll be like, "Ooh, let me repost that. Ain't nobody see it."
Exactly. It's really cute, and nobody can't get nothing. No, it's fine. It's fine. But there's something beautiful about like the two people, and I'm not saying that I don't know, but that I've seen in passing or are strangers who always are up to like, oh yeah, I'm gonna hit like on that, like no matter what. That is so encouraging, because my mother, and my friends, I love them to death, but them liking it doesn't give the same dopamine rush. That's all.
It doesn't.
Oh,
that's funny. It doesn't give the same dopamine rush. No, that is true. I did want to just talk about too the what you said about pivoting. That is also really important.
Yeah.
Because in the beginning, when I first started writing, I thought like, okay, I said this is what I was gonna do. Even when it came to like telling the story itself, all of that can change, and it's okay. You're going to delete things, you're going to backtrack, you're going to change, you're going to write 3 a.m. one day and be like, nah, that wasn't working, I'm going to go back to what I was doing before. Like, all of that is okay, and that's all part of the journey. Like, there's no, I just really like that you said that, the pivoting, because I had to learn it. I'm like, well, wait a minute, I said I was going to do that, and then it didn't work out, and I'm like, well, shit, I done posted it. Who cares? I posted it and I can take it back. I'm not doing this anymore.
Right. I think one of the things I had to learn, and was probably the hardest but also the most freeing lesson, nobody cares about you as much as you think they do.
Yep.
In the sense that that Toko is not the end of the world.
Yep.
Right? Like nobody, I remember the very first edition, like I published Meet Cairo, getting on a plane, headed to Disney for my like Christmas vacation. And it It was cute. It was lovely. But I remember opening
Hmm.
the first I like get not the first one, and there was a
Uh,
typo staring me dead in my face.
oh my
And I was like,
God.
oh, oh, and it was Cairo's name. And I was like, oh
Uh,
my God, Jesus,
yeah.
everybody's gonna hate, right? And I was like, this is so terrible.
No,
Everything is wrong. The world is ending. And I think the thing is, the answer is no, the world is not ending.
right.
And probably nobody cares, right? And
Yeah.
I think,
Or nobody even saw it. You saw it, but I'm like, oh yeah, no, that's his Cairo.
yeah, yeah, and I was like, sometimes you have to reframe a little bit, right?
Yep.
Like sometimes it's the same way I think. I'll use women because I am a woman, particularly. Like we'll post something on IG and somebody will be like, "Oh my God, that picture is really pretty," and
Uh-huh.
you'll be like, "I noticed 7 hairs out of place and it's a problem," and they're like, "No, you look amazing." I feel like book
Right.
writing and posting about your book is the same way. It feels very cringy.
Yes.
Feels so
It's a
cringy.
very vulnerable process. It is. The whole thing is vulnerable. And it's uncomfy. But like you said, reframing that where it's like it's not as bad as you think. People don't actually like care that much. Or care at all. Half the people are gonna forget. They're not as bothered by it as you are. And you put something awesome into the world. Like you're what is the word I use all the time? You're immortal now. Think about that. You're like you're cool. You made this art for people to enjoy. Yeah, that reframing is definitely it'll save you from a lot of tears some
Yeah,
days. It's
yeah. No,
not
I think
bad.
I comforted myself with the Cairo. If this is useful to anybody else who had misprints in their first edition, I was like,
Yes.
well, that's what really marks the first edition. So if she
Yep.
becomes a household name, the people who had that very first edition will be
Yep.
able to say, no, like this particular typo shows that I got it, this, and this, and it's
Yep.
worth more. So I was
Yes.
like, I'm out here making people rich. That's all
That's
I'm
a
saying.
beautiful thing too that you said it like that. I really like because I was struck when my first edition of Heavy is the Head. Again, I love it, but it did have some typos, y'all, and I was feeling the kind of way.
Yeah.
But you just saying that, like, yeah, no, like that. It's all just part of the process, and I'm also giggling because my sister's in the comments and she said Tyler Perry has edit issues and he keeps it moving.
So true.
And that is true.
But so many everybody. I think the it's. I think we magnify it because
Hmm.
all doing it. You're all yourself, right? As indie authors,
Right.
we do everything, and so everything feels so personal.
Yes.
And I think like it's not just I don't even think it's just the vulnerability of the subject matter, right? Like I would say
Hmm.
my poetry is probably the most vulnerable I will
Hmm.
ever be, and I've held on to that book for the longest. And I still have yet to publish it, and it will be a while before I'm ready to release it
Hmm.
to the world.
Right.
But the children's book didn't feel vulnerable to me at
Right.
all.
Right.
And it still somehow felt like by the end, it was my baby, and everything that went wrong
Hmm.
with it was like cataclysmic
Right.
in my world. And that's just can't be your attachment to some of these projects. You really
Hmm.
have to let it go, and
Yeah.
it's easier said than done.
Yes. Yes. 100%.
It's crazy. It's crazy. But okay, I am not going to keep you much longer. This conversation has been awesome. We are going to have to do it again. But I wanted to make sure that we got a chance for you to tell our audience how they can support you.
Oh, I always love this question. So you can support me by telling a friend, by sharing my content. I think I've grown to a place where like people want to like sell, 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 and all that is awesome. I do. So if you don't have the Heavy is the Head duology or Love Bites, you go to Amazon, you can get it there. But the idea of exposure is becoming increasingly important to me because I know I want to reach new audiences and I want to be able to join that inner circle of people who are like, oh, I have my top 5, and I'm like suddenly part of it now. So yeah, no, reshare my content, go to Amazon, Goodreads, put the book in your to be read folders, however Goodreads works now. I'm not on Goodreads as much, I'm on Storygraph. Um, make a purchase, follow me here on Instagram. But yeah, no, just continue to share, spread the word, and yeah, hopefully I will be in some of your hands someday. And leave reviews, please leave reviews. They
Leave
don't have to
reviews.
be long, they don't have to be, you don't even have to say a single word. You could just leave the rating and we're good. But reviews are a really great way of, supporting indie authors in particular, because we already have a hard time getting them. So whether you liked it, you told a friend, you could just be like, up, 5 stars, told a friend, it's
Yeah.
as simple as that. So yeah.
I think I'll add one more to that. I think some of our audience does do video reviews of books, and if you're a book talker or a
Ooh.
bookstagrammer,
Yeah.
it is a great way. I will plug, Black History Month is coming up. Just
Yes.
saying. And it's a great way to create some diversity content, right? By
Yep.
tapping into indie authors, reading their books, and reviewing them with your audiences that you've worked to grow. It's a great way to give back, and it's a great way to help some not so well known folks become
Hmm.
weller known.
Right.
Um, Reviews are important. Reviews, I love all
Yes.
of the support here in the comments.
Yes.
I am living for it. Okay, I want to thank you all again so much for joining. I cannot wait to see you all next week on Friday. If you want, you can wait until Monday to figure out who the next person is. But I will give you a hint. Their first name is Winnie, and their books are amazing. So if you want to go try
I
and
think
figure that out
I
based
know
on
who
the people who follow
that
me.
is.
Yeah! If you want to figure that out,
Wendy, I'll be there.
I'm so excited. We've got a great lineup for you guys for the rest of season 2. Please stay tuned. Please come to these conversations. There's nothing like the type of engagement we get from being able to kiki, chit chat, and laugh with
Yes.
all of you all. All right. Well,
Elisa, thank you so much. Thank you for everyone who came. Oh my gosh, this was great. Even though I can't see your beautiful face, but I'm sure we'll be talking again
we
soon.
definitely will. We definitely will. Everyone have see. Look, I think some people have found Winnie.
Yeah.
I see it.
Let's go, Wendy.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening. We will see you next week.
Bye.
Bye.